Ryan Baker,
Present.
Tammy Bolin,
Present.
James Chrisman,
Yes.
John Collette,
Here.
Jim Crawley, Jeff Ford, Norm Froderman,
Here.
Don Folk,
Here.
John Hanley,
Here.
Marcus Mauer, Debbie May,
Here.
William Verdine, Mike Morris,
Here.
Fred Wilson.
We do have a quorum, I'd like everybody to rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I think everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Favor aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Status report,
It's stapled with it. It's behind it.
think about the status report. That looks
It was included.
okay. Is there any public comments on non-agenda items? Director's report.
Good evening. You'll notice in front of you this evening, no handouts. It's the first time in a while we've not had any extra handouts this evening. So that's kind of a nice change. There will be more details to come on the 46th Annual Associated State Floodplain Managers Conference that Sydney and I attended. It was an excellent opportunity, and like I said, we're going to have a full report that I've drafted, but we have not completed yet. We're waiting on the financials to come in on it, and we'll provide that to you, disclose that to you once it's completed. But excellent opportunity, an opportunity for us to get face-to-face with national leaders when it comes to FEMA, as well as many different state leaders who deal with this on a much higher level than what we do, and an opportunity for us to learn from them and to implement some of their ideas that worked well at their locations here locally. So we think this was an excellent opportunity. Perhaps we could do it again sometime in the future, but again, more details on that to come.
Okay, any questions?
Motion for approval.
Second.
Second.
Favor
Aye.
Sydney?
Mine pretty much mirrors what Jared said, because we both went to the same conference, but, we got some really good ideas and a lot of, public outreach ideas, that we can hopefully implement in the future. Everyone there had so much of a bigger area because it was Florida, so they had much more in-depth floodplain stuff than we do, but, hopefully we can put some of it to use.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Okay, the first item is, Business City rezoning map 30, 22, map C2, two-family residence.
Property owner is Highland Property Group LLC. The proposed use is single-family residence. Proposed zoning is R2, two-family residence district. The current zoning is C2, limited community commerce, represented by Mr. Frederick. It's at 20 and 22 Home Avenue. The petitioner is, to the north, east, south, and west are all C2. The petitioner is requesting to rezone the property from C2 Limited Community District to R2 Two-Family Residence District. Many homes in the area have an original commercial zoning due to the proximity to Wabash Avenue. There is an existing duplex on the property. They are requesting to rezone to match the existing use. There was no site plan, but the duplex appears to be at or near or at the interior lot lines to the north and south. The petitioner has requested a variance of 5 feet from the 5 feet required interior setback from the Board of Zoning Appeals to the north and south, which was granted this morning. Off-street parking with hard surfacing is required in an R2 zoning in the city. The petitioner states there are 2 4-bedroom units in the duplex, which will require 9 parking spaces per city code. They are proposing 4 parking spaces in the back, which would require a variance, which they also did get this morning. Hard surface parking is required. There appears to be a concrete path for parking behind the duplex. Because the surrounding properties are commercially zoned, the property owner must agree to waive any buffering requirement from the surrounding C2. The waiver must be in writing and attached to the deed or title. Staff offers a favorable recommendation for this petition with the following conditions. The variance for interior setbacks to the north and south, which was granted, hard surface parking provided with the required number of parking spaces or variances through the Board of Zoning Appeals, which was granted this morning, and buffering waiver to be recorded with the deed or title.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, David Frederick, Wilkinson Law Firm for Highland Properties, LLC. At this particular situation, this is a property that's been used as a duplex for several years. It was condemned and now is being rehabbed at this point. As I think Sydney had said earlier in the report, the reason it was zoned C2 is because there's a lot of property around it that's commercial use, and Wabash Avenue as well. I think at this point, Highland Property Group has no problem with the buffering requirements to follow that and to sign the waiver. So at this point, I'd be glad to answer any questions about this particular property.
Okay, any questions? Anyone speaking on the petition? Approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is document number 31, special order to 1000 South 7th Street.
The property owner is Highland Property Group LLC. Proposed use is 2-family residence duplex. Proposed zoning is R2, 2-family residence district. Current zoning is R1, single-family residence, represented by Mr. Frederick. The property is located on the southeast corner of the intersection of South 7th and Farrington, at 1000 South 7th Street. To the north, east, south, and west are all R2 and R3 to the west as well. The petitioner is requesting to rezone the property from R1 single-family residence to R2 2-family residence district. The site plan shows the building split in half into 2 5-bedroom units. One unit would have access to the back of the building and the other would have access in the front. The building is directly on the south property line and will need a variance for interior setback, which it did get this morning. In the city, R2 requires hard surfacing. 2 5-bedroom units would require a minimum of 9 parking spaces. The site plan shows 4 parking spaces. The petitioner has indicated there are 2 existing parking spaces near Farrington Street, and they intend to add White Rock for the parking spaces behind them. It appears that the garage has been removed, and they are intending the concrete pad from the garage to be used as 2 hard surface parking spaces. They have requested variances for interior setbacks, non-hard surfacing, and a reduction in parking from the Board of Zoning Appeals. They did get variances for the reduction in parking and the setbacks, but they were denied the variance for non-hard surface parking, so they will have to hard surface. While proposed zoning would match the surrounding zoning, the parking would require on-street parking for 6 or more vehicles. Staff offers a favorable recommendation for this petition with the following conditions: variance for interior setback, hard surface parking provided with the required number of parking spaces or variances through the BZA, which I explained to you in the petition.
Thank you. Again, this particular property is similar to the one we just talked about. This has been a duplex for a number of years. For some reason, it was zoned R1. I think at this point, to try to bring conformity, the petition was to bring it to R2. You've heard the conditions that the City Engineer's Office and the Board of Zoning Appeals has asked for. Again, there's no problem with us complying with the hard surface parking. We work with the City Engineer's Office to come in compliance to do what it takes so this property can be used as it was intended to be, which is a duplex.
Any questions? Lenny?
The interior setback, I get a little disturbed when one gutter takes care of one house, and that is awful close. Did you say the setbacks was approved, or
The setback was approved. It's an existing building, so it's on the lot line, but there's nothing. It's there.
Yeah,
Because that was, I don't go by those pictures, but it stays if it's on the lot.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably notice this property if you drive up and down 7th Street right now. I think it's been vacant for over a decade. It's been condemned for 5 years. There's been quite a bit of gutting taking place. The structure itself is not going to be changed, so it's been.
Was that the one time the nice elegant restaurant or cafe?
I don't know. I mean, my understanding is from what Todd Nation tells me, who knows a lot more about the history than I do, he thinks the property's been vacant for at least 15 years.
Southeast corner.
It's on,
I think
yeah,
it was.
yes, sir.
It's quite elegant.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty exterior at one time. Not now, but hopefully it will be again.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone speaking in opposition?
Move for a favorable recommendation.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Next item is docket number 36, special ordinance 12, 2022, 3230 and 3250 North 22nd Street, Terre Haute, Indiana, from C2 to an R1 and an R1 to C3 regional.
Okay, I don't know, it's an incorrect on, oh no, that's not the right one, never mind. The next one is incorrect. Property owners, Brian and Lisa Porter, proposed use is a car wash. Proposed zoning is C3 Regional Commerce District. Current zoning is C2 and R1, represented by Mr. Lynn. The properties are located on the corner of Fort Harrison and North 22nd Street, at 3230 and 3250 North 22nd Street. It is R1 and C5 to the north, C1 and R1 to the west, R1 to the south, and R1 and C6 to the east. The petitioner is requesting to rezone the properties to C3 Regional Commercial District for a car wash. The parking and driveways will need to be hard surfaced. The northern ingress driveway does not meet the minimum distance from the street intersection, which is 50 feet. They have applied for a variance to be heard at the June 1st BZA meeting, and it was granted this morning. The site plan has been updated with increased parking. For a car wash, City Code calls for 4 parking spaces per bay or stall plus 1 space per employee plus 10 stacking spaces. Drive access from 22nd Street was recommended by City Engineering due to the high volume and velocity of traffic on Fort Harrison. Screening to residential is indicated on the south and west side of the site plan, but will need to be approved. Staff would offer a favorable recommendation with the following conditions: site plan, parking, screening to residential, and stormwater drainage approval by City Engineering, and approval of the variance for a minimum distance of the drive from the street intersection by the City BZA, which was granted.
Good evening, Jeff Glenn, Lynn Law Firm for Brian and Lisa Porter. Be happy to answer any questions. The staff report pretty much covers it. They do a good job.
Any other questions? Anyone speaking in opposition? Have a motion, please.
Motion for approval.
Second. Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is city rezoning docket number 41, special orders 14, 1400, 1406, 1410, 14 Plum Street, Terre Haute, RM2 to an R2 two-family residence.
That's the one that's incorrect on the agenda. It's actually M2 and R2 to C5.
You see,
Yes. The property owner is Green Terrell. Proposed use is a used car dealership. Proposed zoning is C5 General Central Business District. Current zoning is M2 Heavy Industrial District and R2 Two-Family Residence District. The property is located on the corner of North 14th Street and Plum Street, 1400, 1406, 1410, and 1414 Plum Street. It is R2 to the north, R2 and R1 to the east, R2 and R3 to the south, and M2 to the west. The petitioners are requesting to rezone 4 lots from M2 and R2 to C5 General Central Business District for a used car lot. The lots are currently vacant. C5 zoning allows for vehicle sales only, not over 1.5 ton capacity, and does not allow for service. Hard surfacing is required. The site plan shows 18 parking spaces. City code requires 1 space per 1,000 square feet of display area. Display area will need to be determined by City Engineering and parking approved, along with a stormwater drainage plan. The parking lot must be illuminated and screening to the surrounding residential property is required. A drive cut on 14th Street will need to be approved if it does not already exist. The C5 district is, by definition, the main warehousing and wholesaling area and shares the retail trade to a more limited degree with the C4 district. It is characterized by high volumes of trucks and vehicles as well as pedestrian traffic. The area is predominantly residential with manufacturing across the railroad tracks to the northwest. After Plum Street, 14th Street dead ends at the railroad. Staff finds that a used car lot would be out of character for the area. City engineering adds that the proposed use would increase traffic along a local street and create undue burden on the neighborhood residents. And there is a memo attached with their opinion. Staff offers an unfavorable recommendation for this rezoning.
Petitioner. Anything you have to add or any question?
I don't have any questions. I didn't know if you guys had any questions for me. In that area, there's one residence to the west, and then to the north, it's a empty and vacant lot, and it's almost butted up to the railroad track. And as far as the driveway cut, there's already a driveway cut on 14th Street. I didn't know if you guys had any other questions.
Any question? Lynn? Anyone speaking in opposition? Yes, sir. We have your name. Okay, any questions? Mrs. Miller? Okay, any other discussion? Anyone else speaking this issue? Anything further? I need a motion.
Move for an unfavorable recommendation.
Second.
Favor aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, motion passes. Unfavorable recommendation.
To the city council.
Okay.
So the next two are.
Okay, the next two items are tabled, so I have a motion.
So move.
Second.
Aye.
Next item, document 38, 2022, Culvers at the Fairgrounds subdivision.
Okay, the property is located on the southeast corner, please forgive my error, southeast corner of the Wabash Valley Fairgrounds. It is immediately north of the property commonly known as 4201 South US Highway 41. Approximately 2.35 acres, surveyor Mr. Request is to subdivide one lot for commercial development. The developer has requested primary and secondary approval. Health Department has approved sanitary sewer is available, no new public roads. An existing drive cut on Highway 41 will be utilized. Public water is available. It is in a flood zone. The property is located in a FEMA-identified special flood hazard area. Any structures or development as defined in the flood hazard ordinance will need to be permitted and built according to the requirements of the flood hazard ordinance for Vigo County. Stormwater drainage plan will be required with this, and the lot does exceed the minimum lot size requirement. The site plan calls for a rear point of access that means of ingress and egress to the site from the fairgrounds. This would allow for access to the new commercial development via the network of internal drives on the fairgrounds. Those roads are not constructed to handle the commercial traffic and will deteriorate quickly. Allowing access via the fairgrounds may also cause problems during events. A previous site plan for the north side of the fairgrounds was developed. It too had ingress-egress at the rear of the property. That access point has had physical barriers placed to prevent traffic from exiting the rear of the property. These same measures could prove an acceptable solution at this location. NDOT may require upgrades to the existing drive cut along Highway 41. The addition of turn lanes or decel lanes may be requested. Any additional or any requirements requested by NDOT will need to be accommodated and incorporated into the site plan. So we offer favorable in the primary and secondary with the following conditions: approval and incorporation of NDOT recommendations on Highway 41, drainage and erosion control plan approval, bonding for infrastructure if needed, fire department approval, must meet or exceed all FEMA standards for new construction in a special flood hazard area, and approval of the rezoning.
Okay, sufficient, President.
Good evening. I'm Matt Boris with Align Civil Engineering Consultants, and we representing Matt Billieu here, the owner. Like Jeff Lynn said, they did a good job on the report. I don't have anything else to add. I can answer any questions though.
Okay, any questions from the planning commission?
I have one. I wasn't totally clear about, so I assume they come off of 41 and go to the back of it and utilize the road that's there now?
Yeah, the idea being right now, southbound, the access to the site will primarily be a right turn in and a right exit out using the existing drive that's there right now, which will be constructed, reconstructed, excuse
Yeah.
me.
Beefed up, yeah.
Beefed up with an NDOT permit. We're in conversations right now with Crawfordsville District on exactly what they're gonna require. The idea to use the main entrance to the fairgrounds as a back entrance was mainly because of the light that's there right now. And we do realize that pavement is
Oh.
probably substandard pavement and may need beefed up with a layer of surface course or something. We'll evaluate that.
Well, I don't have an issue with it, I just was curious.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but we met with NDOT about 2 weeks ago, and they are well aware of this, and especially because there's no crossover there, it would be an exit to the right. They thought it could be managed.
Sure, good.
No, I had additional comments regarding the safety from crossing the lanes to turn to go back north, but that is a part of the rezoning, which is being tabled for now. But from what these gentlemen have saying, that addresses those issues.
Mr. England speaking in opposition.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Aye.
Next item is under subdivision made primary secondary document 39,
Do we need a motion to table the other one?
Please.
So moved.
Thank you.
The zoning for call.
Second.
Aye.
Herman's Hill.
Okay. All right, the property is commonly associated with 3375 West Graceland Avenue in West Terre Haute. 2 lots, .458 and .596 acres. The surveyor is Mr. Hudson. The request is to replat portions of Lot 2 and 3 in Wagner Park Place, second section. Health Department is approved, no new public roads, public water is available, it's not in the flood zone. Typically, stormwater drainage is required with the major subdivision. And this property does fall under the major subdivision due to 5 or more lots having been divided from the parent tract over time. However, there are no plans for additional development at this location. Accordingly, staff would request a waiver of the major subdivision requirements. Of course, minor subdivision developments would still apply. The garage construction on the site was originally constructed in the right-of-way on West Graceland Avenue. That portion of the right-of-way had been vacated. The property owners received Board of Zoning Appeals approval for relief from the front setbacks for the existing pole barn. So as no new development is planned, we'll offer favorable on the primary and secondary, with the only condition being it must be recorded within 90 days.
Okay, petition president.
Hello.
Hi. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you.
Final is docket number 40, UCO 10,022, 783 North Chamberlain Street, Terre Haute, Indiana, from an RS to an R2M, medium density residential.
The property owner is Miller Realtor Incorporated. The preparer was LFF Incorporated. The proposed use, two-story duplex rentals. The proposed zoning R2M, medium-density residential. This currently are a single-family residential suburban. 783 North Chamberlain Street, Terre Haute, Indiana is the location. It is located approximately 166 feet north of the corner of East Chandler Avenue on the east side of North Chamberlain Street. Recommended use is suburban residential, and the area is served with public utilities. Excuse me. The surrounding zones and uses are all residential suburban, with the exception of the south also has an R1 single-family residential. The petitioner is requesting to rezone to allow for construction of 7 two-story duplex buildings, approximately 1,326 square feet by the site plan. The comprehensive plan recognizes this area as suburban residential in nature. Further, it indicates that over time, densities should be encouraged to increase moderately. A major subdivision will be required with this rezoning. The subdivision will address issues such as stormwater drainage, utility access and availability, drive cuts and location, as well as lot location for each unit. Also addressed will be the question as to the capacity of the roads, water, and sewer availability. The site plan leaves room for possible future expansion of the development. Doing so will require additional subdivisions of the property. Public sewer and water will be required. The private street must be hard surfaced and meet the requirements of the subdivision control ordinance. So based upon the above findings, staff will offer a favorable recommendation on the R2M district rezoning request, so long as the major subdivision is approved.
Okay, is petitioner present?
Jason Little was supposed to show up, but I'll do my best. I'm Sam Miller. I own Miller Realtor.
Fence is back there.
Back down.
Sorry about that. I have a cold. I have checked it. I've checked my temperature. It's not COVID. And I have a log of forehead temperatures. And sorry about our mix-up there. This project is a site on North Chamberlain Road. It's in the area somewhat where I grew up, so I'm familiar with that. In working on the project, I talked with Kara McIntosh, who is the Director of Operations at the airport, and told her what was being planned here for this project. And I was surprised how encouraged and excited she was about that idea, because she had just gotten back from a convention. And one of the issues the people have, or businesses have, with bringing their companies to the airport is the availability of housing in the area. And so we talked, and I said, well, years ago I went to Purdue, took aviation, A&P mechanics for 1 year, and a guy came and he said he's working for United Airlines, and he made less money doing that than I quit doing working construction to go to school to make more money. So I quit that. And she said, do you have any idea what an A&P mechanic makes today? I said, I have no idea. She goes, you ought to go back into it. I said, I'm 68 years old. She said, you ought to go back into it. They start out at $80,000 a year for just out of school. And there is one operation at the airport that does that now. She said others were showing interest. However, they were concerned about that. And so she was all over this thing going through. And in the process of that, I know the density thing and residential housing and the infinite dream of everyone is to own a farm and live on it and raise things and eat that and so forth. But a lot of our society, we don't do that. I moved from the country in town, and that was an adjustment myself. South of this piece of property is a subdivision that has very small lots on it. And when you start talking about density, those buildings will be closer to each other than these are, as far as that goes. And this piece of property, I don't know did they get the little layout of the property? Okay. If you'll see on there, there's basically trees around the perimeter of this property, and also the piece of property around it on the north and east sides is wooded. I mean, that's about as good a buffer as you could get at the present time. And you'll see the tree line. I tried to take advantage of the trees. Trees are good for the planet and so forth. So, a little bit there on the south west lot is taking some trees out, but what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 7 buildings, 6 almost, the one on the southeast is okay. Are minimal removal of any vegetation, trees, things like that. So a buffering is going on there. And I envision it to be a pretty nice little piece of property in there developed. Will not be an eyesore and things like that. So that's my discussion.
Okay, any,
And thank you.
planning commission for that?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir, say you have water supply.
There is water out front along Chamberlain Road, yes.
Okay, does it go to that property?
There's a house on the property now, yes.
You know what size, main goes to that house?
Nope, do not. Okay. 6-inch main goes down that road.
Is that the same one line that goes to the golf course? Or is a 6-inch line for a fire hydrant?
Yeah.
I asked that several years ago. Water out there, reservoir, down the creek, where it comes out, I never said a creek, that water out the pump.
Yeah, I'm just supporting Burns, basically. I'm gonna support Burns out.
Mm-hmm.
And Chamberlain, North Chamberlain, it is notorious for having no water. We can't pump a hydrant. We're gonna suck the hydrant right out of the ground. So, you guys may have a problem with servicing this area.
And that will be taken care of in the submittal of the subdivision of it. This is rezoning. And so if that is an issue, that will be addressed at that point in time.
Okay, any other questions from the planning commission? Anyone speaking in opposition to this petition? Yes, sir. Size of the building?
1,326 square foot.
Two-story?
Yes.
set the ground rules here real quick. You're talking about planning commission was to have discussion with local parties. Okay? Anyone else want to speak in opposition? You come up here so we'd like to hear you.
I understand that. We have some serious reservations about this because we live directly across the street, and there's a large drainage ditch across between our house and the road. And it is already falling in. We really need someone to come out and look at that, and that's a whole nother story. It's falling in. We have nowhere left to put our mailboxes. Our mailboxes get ran over about 5 times a year, and we have to replace them. They are not there right now because they have been ran over and would have been hit 2 more times before we could replace them. Because that side is falling in, and so the road is deteriorating, and I have serious reservations about that much construction equipment coming on the road that's already deteriorating.
Okay. Any questions from the planning commission? Can we have your name? I'm sorry.
Heather LeBrun.
Okay.
And I've actually lived there my entire life. It's where I was born, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question. Said, like, that one family bottom, one family top, or 2 family on the bottom, 2 family on the top? The building is not single story bed.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you understand?
Yeah, I did. The paper said 2-story. Yes, okay, so that was incorrect. That's changed. And in regards to the road, my wife informed you already. We had also floods. The drainage there is a problem. So we've already had one person hydroplane off into that 8-foot to 10-foot ditch. Luckily, he wasn't hurt. And we end up with 1 to 3 vehicles in that ditch each year, just due to the hill that the grass is down. And if you have enough force going up, when you come down on a slick road, you're going to lose control. And I feel that if you put the entrance where I think it's going to go, 14 families, that's going to add a little bit of congestion. Maybe not that much, but that's still something that could cause more people to avoid. So it just increases that chance of an accident. That's all I have.
Thank you. It's not a MC. It's not a MC. It's a friend. Okay. Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Okay, if not, I need a motion. For favorable recommendation.
Second.
I didn't hear what they said.
Favorable.
Favorable. Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Okay, the next item is.
Adjournment. Yeah, adjournment, huh?
Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check that out. About that road, I walked down that road. That's what I thought.
Well, tell them I said hi.
I got some problems out there on top.